Welcome to this week's episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Michael Amargon. And of course, with us this week is our co-host, my co-host, Vicquell.
Hello.
So, we had a WWDC this week, and for those of you that aren't aware of what WWDC is, it's essentially it's essentially the place that you'd go to if you're a developer, or if you're just a geek that wants to know about like what's coming along in the pipeline. So if it's anything with iOS or iPhones, with Apple TV, Apple Watch, MacBooks, Mac Pros, pretty much anything Apple related. Typically, if it's software based, you're gonna find out about it at WWDC. They typically do one a little bit later on in the year that deals with hardware, but every once in a while they'll talk about every once in a while they will talk about hardware and show like little snippets of cool little things that's happening. Mr. Wan saying they actually heard nothing from the first part, so yeah, it's good that I'm actually going over everything again. But by the way, Vicky, you might want to check out that link I gave you last time so you can see everyone in the chat.
Oh yeah, that's the session I'm looking at now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So essentially what is happening, they started off as per usual with people talking about what's happened in the past and and then start to lead off with what they're actually doing this year. This upcoming year, I should say. Now, and I'm trying to find. Okay, there's my document.
The stats? Oh no.
Well, they did start off with stats with iOS, and through a bunch of shade, saying that within the first 7 weeks they hit 75%, I think it was, of people upgrading to iOS 11. And then, as of currently, there's 81% of people that's on iOS 11. And then they showed 6% for Android Oreo, saying that the other people probably don't have an upgrade management system, essentially. So, plenty shade towards Android. Which kind of made me go, but
Something they did last year and the year before.
They're doing it every time that they can to try and show it off. But I mean, they do have a point, and it's something that Android really does need to focus on. Like, there are way too many phones that are coming out that aren't being upgraded. And yes, you can get a phone for $50, but at the same point, like, there needs to be development for that phone, regardless of it, even if it's $50. You can't just sell a phone and not support it upgrading to the next upgrade. Like, I think that's something very bad that's happening within that ecosystem.
Yeah, that was also one of the reasons why I left my Samsung.
Let's see, there you go. And I mean, if you look at it, Samsung themselves, in the US, they're actually behind with some of their flagship phones. Like, just even upgrading to like the version that just was one step above what they sold at. So yeah, it's at this point I can't really fault them, because Google has had a long time to try and resolve this, and they just simply haven't. The next thing that they got to was that iOS 12, haha, that's kind of obvious what the next one's going to be called. Is going to be available for all iPhones and iPads created from 2013 and on. So this is going to include the iPhone 5S and up. And that it's going to enable it to go 40% faster with launching apps, 50% faster with showing the keyboard, and 70% faster if you swipe from the lock screen, I believe it is, to the camera. They kind of played it off like if it was opening the camera and taking a photo, but if you actually watch the transition, they're actually going from lock screen to camera.
Camera.
So that's a little touchy right there, for me at least. And under load, it's going to be 2 times faster opening up the share sheet. So that's pretty much where you would share a picture or whatever to email, Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook, so on and so forth. That's going to open up 2 times faster, as well as 2 times faster with app launching under stress. That's when you have a bunch of stuff open up and you're doing a bunch of stuff on the phone. And then there was one thing that kind of got me a little concerned slightly. It's that they ramp up the hardware almost as soon as you need something like really dedicated performance-wise. They ramp it up and then drop it off instead of a slow incline to where it actually needs to go. But I guess they're saying that, you know, people are looking to say like how fast their apps load now. So that's their way of gaming the system a little bit. I don't know.
That way of cheating, basically.
Essentially.
By going to see how fast the app load, and if they push everything from the processor for that one app to load, then people are going to be like, oh, you know, it's faster on this device.
Yep. Pretty much. So that was the one part of the performance that kind of made me go, that seems a little shady. I'm glad you guys are saying it up front, but that still seems a little shady. But yeah, that was on the performance side. And I know they typically start off with performance, and you know, there's almost always a performance upgrade of some sort every year. But I don't know. What was your whole take on it?
And performance-wise, I honestly was expecting them to drop devices, considering that that's their thing. Like after a certain OS, they would drop the device, especially how iOS 11 was was taken last year.
Mm-hmm.
With the first couple months, the software was crap, basically. There were multiple bugs. It was slowing down person's phones. So I was expecting them to drop the older devices, and I actually expect them to drop. I think they were going to stick. I expect them to have iOS 12 on the 6 up, and then like next year drop the 6. Yeah, after I drop the 6S, and move on like that. I didn't expect them to keep all the devices from 2013 now. That's a very huge gap. Now you think about it. 2018 now, it's a really big gaps. It's not Apple-like, pretty much.
Hi, White X Pancakes. I think that's the username. Yeah. But yeah, that did surprise me.
Pancake. I like your name. Unless the X isn't supposed to be pronounced, and it's supposed to be the space. Like High School DD and Hunter, unless it's just white pancakes.
I like how you started off with High School DxD.
Yeah.
go for the sketchy one first, or it could be white times pancakes.
See, I told you that.
Oh, that
it's
okay.
White pancakes.
Okay. You're right. I'm wrong. I can take it. Sorry, white pancakes. Where is iPhone 8? iPhone 8 is
in the store?
Yeah, it came out 2017, so it's going to be getting iOS 12.
Yeah.
Right now, iOS 12 is currently up for beta, just as a heads up for anyone. So you can... Sorry, go on.
You could download it. I think the official public beta would be coming out maybe next week or week after, one of them.
Yeah, somewhere up in there.
I'm not running it because last time I ran a beta, when I actually had to update my watch and phone, I was having issues, and I had to go download the firmware all over again and manually add it to my phone, and then I had to update my watch, and I had to update my iPad. So I'm not doing it again this year. I'm just gonna wait. But I've watched reviews on it, and the one that I've seen so far said that the beta is running pretty good. Since this year's update was basically performance improvement, wasn't no major like that. They had like slight changes, but it wasn't like no major change with the OS.
Yeah. I think I'm probably going to run it on my iPhone as well. But of course, I don't really use my iPhone, so it's more like a test phone. So that kind of works out for me in that element. But that's just me. Now, when they moved on after performance into talking to AR, and they've really been pushing AR when it's come to the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. I sometimes I got X and 8 confused there for just a second there. But apparently they work with Pixar, which is both a little surprising and not surprising considering that they've kind of always had that little tie-in with Pixar.
Especially the watch faces where they have some Disney characters and then Buzz Lightyear, and Squad, Woody, and all of them.
And they actually worked on a new 3D file platform called USDZ, which pretty much allows you to do a bunch of stuff, which is universal screen description, optimizing for sharing files, compacting everything into one single file, and then allowing it to be an open source. Well, not open source, but it's an open file format so that people can use it freely. What this all means is that it's easily shareable on the web, in apps, in news, emails, opening up in File Explorer. So quite literally, let's say you went to check out some items inside of a store and you want to see what it looks like in the real world. You can actually, if they have it enabled, use your iPhone and open it up and show it like how it would look inside your home or office or wherever it is that you want to show it. And that could be for quite literally anything that's 3D that is in this file format, essentially. And they worked with a number of companies, but it's definitely going to be available for Adobe Creative Cloud. And they're saying that other 3D platforms are teaming up with them later on, and along with the ones that they actually have as well. I know they also kind of ripped off some other apps, I should say, with the Measure tool.
That means rip all of those third-party measuring applications in the App Store?
Pretty much, especially all the ones that used ads.
Yep. They want to pull on my anime list.
Wow.
They really screwed all their third-party app developers. Like, I feel sorry for them.
They did. They really and truly did. But, yeah, so essentially it's just a tool that you use. You take your phone, take it up to open up the app, move the camera from one side to another to actually like draw a line, and it tells you what the distance is. And it can give it to you in 3D, or you can even use it, let's say, because it apparently automatically recognizes rectangles. So you can hold it up to a rectangle and it will tell you how big it is. The funny thing about that is during the presentation, he showed a suitcase, which is a rectangle, and it didn't automatically pick up on it. Did you notice that, Vicky? Like, it worked for his picture of himself as a baby, but it didn't work for the suitcase, which is also a rectangle. So
maybe because it was a rectangle and also had dimensions. Because the picture of him that was a baby wouldn't have dimension, would have been a flat rectangle.
This is true. That might be the case.
Probably couldn't pick up the I don't know what it called, the top part of the suitcase and the sides. That might have been it.
Maybe. I'm actually not sure. Like, I would have to look into that now.
Or that too.
Maybe it's fake.
I actually don't use AR at all on my phone. I'm probably going to use the Measure app now because it's going to automatically come on the software. So it's going to therefore push me to use it every here and there. I'm being lazy. Don't pull the ruler.
I mean, that's kind of essentially what it does. It kind of defeats the purpose of rulers, at least having them on hand.
Yeah, so you practically gonna always have a ruler in your pocket.
Essentially, yeah. Now, I know they also were talking about upgrading ARKit to ARKit 2 this time, which has improved face tracking, realistic rendering, 3D object detection, and persistent and shared experiences. An example of a shared experience being a game where multiple people can essentially play using the exact same space, see what the other people are doing, and so on and so forth. And they showed a really, I have to give them props to this. They showed a excellent demonstration of this using Legos.
Lego!
And what they did is they started off with an actual physical built up Lego set, which is just like a building. And then they started off, it recognized the building and then allowed them to start. And it took it from there, opened it up into a world, which allows you to do things like have missions, put down little characters like Batman or your own little character or whatnot, put down vehicles.
You're a kitty.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or even set up other buildings. And so things can happen. So, for example, in their demonstration, someone actually started a fire. Like, there was a pastry store inside the set, and then it came up almost Sims-like with a little bubble, like red, and you pressed on it on the tablet, and then, fire erupted. So then they had to put down a fire engine to take out the fire. There are people on the roof who were trapped, and so they had to put a helicopter, bring it close, and save the clowns that were just kind of there. They had Batman protecting the bank. And so it's really, and they also allowed another person to come in. So while one person was doing the helicopter, the next person was manning the fire truck, saving their little world that they're actually working on together. And then when they were done with it, they save it. And so it's actually... Wow, okay. Apparently Bill Cosby did nothing, just cheered for 5 bits. I think that's actually our first bits. Thank you for that. That's our first donation kind of thing, period. Like that's never happened. Thank you. Wait, what? Oh, they shared another 5 bits. Okay, thank you again. I don't know what's going on here. Thank you.
Apple news. People like to hear about Apple.
This is true. This is true. Say Bill Cosby back at it again. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Back on topic. Where was I again?
I'm speaking about Lego, how they had to set it on fire and they had a person go put out the fire.
Gosh, we got another 5 bits. This is gonna be an interesting stream if this continues to happen. Thank you again for the bits. But yes, so they saved it, and so they can then decide to just move on, and then they could open up the world that they created at another point in time and continue playing. And I guess you can continue to expand it to whatever size. Wow. Thank you again, Bill Cosby did nothing. This is interesting. But yeah. So I honestly found that very persuasive. I was talking about how great Samsung is. No, I wasn't. Nice try though, Juan. Nice try. Say just a reminder. Wow. Pudding Pops. Chair for 5. 5 chairs for Pudding Pops. Interesting. I've never tried those. I've never even heard of those.
Pudding Pops?
Pudding Pops. Like this.
Pudding Pops. I'm gonna take a peek.
Oh, and Dwan subscribed on YouTube.
Oh.
Thanks for the subscription, Dwan. Say preach, Dwan, preach. But yeah, like, what were your thoughts about the whole Lego thing? Because I think I've already expressed my like complete like appreciation for that demonstration.
Well, I'm a Lego fan, so I'm not gonna hate on Lego. So I thought the demonstration was pretty cool, and the fact that they used Lego is like so amazing. Because I know, what did they do? I know they used another company at the keynote in September. I can't remember. It was I think it was a video game company that they used.
Yeah, they were. It was pretty much like a spaceship type of game.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. But I guess the person didn't mutate to that. But Lego, on the other hand, they could have like, and they made sure had it set up where it was clear that they were pointing towards the kids with the demonstration. Yeah. So it's clear they were aiming towards the kids and how I guess they're going to make the kids active and play with each other instead of sitting on their iPads all day. Yeah.
Yep.
And they had like the other Lego fans, which it's just a pretty terminology for them. Be like, grown adults that play with Lego.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Plus, the guys that did it were extremely enthusiastic, but I guess that's probably their thing because they run the company.
I need to tell people, Lego's age limit is 99.
Yes.
So I can play a Lego for as long as I want.
Yes. Well,
until 99. Which I probably won't live to see. Knock on wood.
Let's hope. Well, thanks for following Bill Cosby Did Nothing. After all of your bits. Like, thank you for following. But, yeah.
Until I step on one.
Yeah, pretty much. Then the end of the world is happening and you're dead. Before your time. It rips the soul from your body. Like, it comes out through your mouth. But,
like my pieces on the table, as far away so I don't knock them over.
Until they fall, until like some kid comes and like puts them on the floor, and then you just don't happen to notice, and you step on them. Then your life is over, as you know it. But the next thing that they brought out were photos, and I couldn't help but like notice the comparisons that to Google Photos. Like almost everything that they said, it was like, Google Photos has this. Google Photos has this. Yeah, they have that too. But then they did something that I wasn't that Google Photos actually doesn't have. But they did search suggestions, which is a thing in Google Photos. They have key moments, people. They have moments and places by names and activities. So that's like if you're hiking, which I don't think Google actually does with the activity part. They allow you for multiple search terms and suggested search terms, so you can put in something like hiking and then Vicquell, for example, and it will pull up, like if you and I went hiking, then it will pick up all the photos of you hiking along with me that I may have taken. And then they had the new for you for tab, which is a lot like what Google Photos does, which is like things like memories, featured photos, like on this day this happened, which is kind of like what Facebook does as well.
Facebook does. That'd be so annoying.
Effects suggestions, which is another thing from Google Photos. Shared album activity, so if someone adds a photo to your shared album. Shared suggestions in full HD. So like, for example, if you have photos of someone, it's going to suggest that you share them with that person. If they, you have them inside your contacts and it knows who they are, that kind of thing. which is another thing that Google Photos has recently, well, not so recently, kind of started doing. But the thing that they did that Google Photos, I believe, does not, is that when you share a photo with someone, and it will actually, they look through their photos to see if they have any shareable photos as well of other people, and so on and so forth, that they might be willing to share, so that you get a complete set of photos across the board from both sets of people, which I think is awesome. That's something Google should have done from the get-go, if they haven't. I know they did some.
I probably won't use it. I don't even know if I'm going to even use the search feature. I probably may. I think that may probably be the one that I use.
Now that I think about it, they actually did have something similar to it back when they were doing Google Plus, and it was using the events. So Google Plus events, and then you invite a bunch of people, and then they can add photos to it. That was it. But it wasn't like they searched their phone to find pictures of it. So it's still a step up, and it's still something that's current. Well, Google Plus is kind of like, meh. Especially since they're limiting who has access to events, because it's become spam ridden with porn ads. So, +1 for Google, for Apple Photos on that one. Oh, please. You just finished copying a bunch of stuff. You just added one thing. One saying that, quote, I actually use Google. Wait. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Juan. Google Photos or Apple Photos?
iCloud.
Oh. Yeah. I use as a free cloud to keep my photos and save my memory. I do that personally with Google Photos. I'm not sure which one exactly you're referring to, though.
I don't back up photos on the cloud. I don't know.
Yeah, you're a little paranoid with stuff like that. Not in a bad way.
I could back it up, but it's just like, I don't really need to.
I do it because in case something happens to my phone, I don't want to lose memories. That would just be saved onto that one device. So, like for example, my mom. She's actually lost her phone before, and someone did not give it back. So, if she didn't do that, she would have lost all of her photos. And, like, she's lost a camera before as well. It was a little digital camera, but she lost it. Someone picked it up inside the food store, wiped it, and then turned it in. Or, I don't know, I guess they were caught with it, or I don't know. Essentially, we went back to the office, and then when we went back for it, we got the camera back, but it was wiped completely clean. And it was a pretty big size memory card, so it had like a year and plus worth of memories on it, and that was just gone. So we kind of learned from that, and so that's why we've been using cloud-based stuff to always back up our pictures and videos and stuff.
Makes sense. I usually back up everything on my computer. So I try to back my phone up at least once a day, because I'm always doing some stupidness on my phone. I'm always doing something on it, and there could be any moment where I would have to go and restore my whole phone again. So I always try to back up my phone at least once a day.
I mean, that makes sense.
Just hope that doesn't happen to my laptop.
That's the next thing. Like, you could back up to your computer and then something happens to your computer. But then again, if for some reason my Google account got hacked, or I couldn't remember my password and couldn't get it reset, or Google decided, hey, well, you've violated our terms and service, all of my stuff will be gone as well. So, well, at least all the backed up stuff. So it's kind of a catch-22. When you rely...
It's like 50-50. It's like you win both ways, but then at the same time you also lose both ways.
Exactly. So, personally, what I do is I back up to the cloud. I have some digital copies, but I also store my stuff on...
An external hard drive?
External hard drives, and I actually have one right here. as an example. Whoop, it's plugged into something. Like this big boy right here, 4 terabyte network back external hard drive, which I probably could get for a lot cheaper nowadays than what I did before.
I think I have the same company. I think we have like a 4.3, but mine's on the floor, so I can't pick it up and put it in the camera like you did.
Yeah, I'll actually have to put that on the floor because then some stuff fell down. So, on the shelf. Yikes. Juan is saying backup is a must. What if Google loses to Apple and decides to retire? Everything will be gone. Whoa! 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 Okay. One, I highly doubt that will ever happen. Mediafire.
I like Google where they are at the moment. So
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen. Hopefully not.
Yeah. The difference between Mediafire and Google is Google has billions and billions of dollars. Mediafire just doesn't have the share amount that Google does. Not only that, but Google isn't just like relying on one subset of services. They are across the board. They're YouTube, for God's sake. Like YouTube, they run ads, which is one of their biggest sources of income. They, of course, do cloud, which is another source of income. And I actually just had to pay for mine today since my my free terabyte that they gave me for
expired.
Well, it's expiring July 7th. So when that happens, then I need to roll over. So I just did it a little bit early. But yeah, they have upon time of like different services that they can keep getting money from. And yes, Apple is strong as well. And Apple is one of the most profitable companies in the world. I will not deny that.
I think because they have loyal customers. Like, it's the truth. They have loyal customers. Like, they can give me anything, and I'm going to purchase it. So that's just me. That's just me. I can't even lie. They give me anything, and I'm going to purchase it.
I always love how you're so upfront about this, Vicky. Like,
and I'm going to find some type of way to put this into my ecosystem. At least I'm honest.
This is true. This is true. I just shake my head because, well, it's refreshing in a sense that someone's so upfront about it and their fanboyism, or in your case, fangirlism. Fanwomanism? What do you call it?
I don't know. I don't fan girl. I feel like a fan girl. I don't know. Like, you know, women nowadays, they don't want to be called female. They want to be called women. It's just so much terminology, man. I just go with fan girl.
Okay. Yeah.
They may have some that maybe don't want to be called a fan woman. I don't know. It doesn't roll off the tongue nicely. Like how fan girl rolls off the tongue. Yeah.
And I know like fangirl was the proper terminology a few years ago. Like, oh, I'm fangirling over this, or I'm fanboying over this, and like it wasn't a problem. It's like saying
fan manning. Yeah, so like it doesn't roll off the tongue nicely. So.
Yeah, no. Yeah, let's never make that a thing.
Yeah.
Let's never make that. I've got goosebumps. I legit have goosebumps. Like, I don't know if y'all can see that. I've got legit goosebumps from that. I guess you could call it Apple lovers, Juan.
Yeah.
There are people that call them sheep. Yeah, or sheeple, you know, stuff like that.
They follow Apple blindlessly or aimlessly.
I will leave that. Fan manning. Juan, do not do this. Do not start this up. No. Bad, Juan. Bad. Oh, okay. I can them Eve. I won't be Adam. Oh Lord. Oh Lord, it started.
Now we're going to eat the apple.
Oh my. I can call them Eve. I won't be Adam. That's okay. Yeah. Oh Lord, the apple of truth or the apple of? You know what? I'm not gonna stop there because then anyway, yeah. Moving on. They actually did some improvements to Siri. Holy crap. I mean, there wasn't anything like completely mind-blowing, but it seems to be like it's not quite going the way Google is. They're mainly going like human curation instead of artificial intelligence. Like Google, for example, with its calling and all the extra features that we talked about during Google's developer conference, Google I/O, and a few episodes ago. But it kind of feels like they're kind of going with if this then that, which is IFTTT, or IFTT, yeah. If this then, yeah, IFTTT. I always get that confused. Which essentially is a web-based service that you can use to connect a bunch of different platforms, so that if you do one thing on one, it triggers something in IFTTT to then do something in another web service, and you can like string along a bunch of them if you know how to code it right. Or there are actually people that have done these codes before, and these web hooks, essentially integrations, and so that you can just look and say, okay, well, this person here did this. I'm going to grab that and add it to my, this is what I want for my service. I'm just going to add in my information and it's going to do the same thing. Essentially, that's what they're doing, and they're calling it shortcuts for Siri. And with that, it's essentially taking it to the point where, for example, you can do a suggestion. So if you want birthday reminders, do not disturb, say, in movies, text to say that you're late for a meeting, frequently based orders online. Let's say, I guess in their case with the demo, they did a caffeinated mojito. Hey there, BSG Gaming. If you work out at the gym, then it will like automatically open up these things based on either on location or time and stuff like that. It'll open up these different things that it thinks that you will be doing. And when it comes to the IFTTT, you can do things like sending an ETA to your spouse or roommate or family member, set the temperature at home, get the Apple Maps route to actually get home, avoiding traffic, and then open up your preferred radio station and all this kind of stuff, and it'll tell you what it's doing, and then boom, it's just happening. Google has done something kind of similar as well when it came to Google Home. Not so much with Assistant too much. They've kind of done it a bit, but it doesn't have a whole bunch of integrations just yet. But it does have some. So they're kind of, I guess, growing this now. And much like with Google and their version of it, if you're on phones and stuff like that, you're going to need to actually have an app that has support for this. So, for example, if you have an app that is like a year old, hasn't needed updating or anything like that up to this point, don't expect for it to have shortcut support, because it just won't. It hasn't built it into the code.
For some users, yes. For me, I don't really use Siri like that. But I think some users, they actually do use Siri a lot. Even though she's at the present moment still kind of dumb. No offense.
It's the truth. Siri is actually, by the way, Juan, Siri is among the lowest in terms of intelligent AI, virtual assistants. It kind of ranks a little bit under Alexa. And there was even, I think Conan O'Brien kind of did a parody on it, where they said, you know, the best way to use the HomePod is to have the HomePod ask Alexa what to do, and then kind of show it off. which I found was a little funny. But oh well, if you only use your phone for like calls 80% of the time, then I mean, the most you could probably really use that for is to say, "Hey Siri." Oh, sorry if anyone's got an iPhone or anything like that that's listening on this. I'll say, "Hey S." Hey S, call mom, call dad, call Tina, call my boss. You know, things like that.
That's what I use Siri for. If I'm to work and I don't want to stop to go unlock my phone, call my parents, be like, okay, hey S, call dad, and then just be like, okay, which number, etc., etc. But for me to constantly speak to Siri, I'd have to all the time. I'd have to slow down my speech because she's not going to understand me, which is also an annoying part.
This is true too.
I mean, for a person to live in another country, I think it would be different because she's set to their accent, but for us, it's different.
Yeah. See,
especially for those Bahamians who speak 100% Bahamian Creole. Oh man, they won't be able to use Siri at all. She wouldn't be able to understand them.
But Siri, what happening, man?
Yeah, like she wouldn't understand them at all.
Nah, wouldn't at all. They talk about it in every meeting conference. Yeah, I mean, Siri has use for people on a whole. It's just how you decide to use her and how you decide. Well, I shouldn't call her anymore because it has a male voice. How you decide to use Siri. And for some people, they don't use their phones a certain way, so they're not going to be using Siri at all in that kind of way. So in your case, the only thing that would be happening is like making calls. For someone like me, it might be saying to check out the time or to play certain music, so I don't have to open up the app or anything like that.
I don't even know. Siri, tell me the time.
It should.
Hey Siri, what time is it?
It's 7:27 p.m.
Yes. So Siri actually has a lot of different things it can do. If we were in the States, for example, it will be able to tell you what's playing inside the local cinema. Here in the Bahamas, it just doesn't do that. But that's not Apple's fault. That's actually our cinema's fault because they decided to not have their own website.
Is that also why Apple Maps doesn't work over here? Pretty sure that's Apple's fault.
No, that's Apple's fault. Because they're using Yelp for their map and like review system. So, well, not their map, but for their business place essentially.
Remember when Apple used to use Google?
Yeah, that was nice.
Those were the days. They were nice.
Yep. Hey, Nally boy. Oh, why'd I call you Nally boy? Hey, Nally. Like I just read Nally boy Ray, and I'm like, say the name. Yeah, sorry about that, Nally. I don't know. Like I see.
Do you want to live in the ecosystem with us?
Me?
Oh no. Juan was asking, so that he wouldn't buy an iPhone for Siri. What should he buy it for? Oh, should I buy it for then? Oh yeah, what should he buy it for?
Say Cortana. The funny thing is, you can actually use. Is
Cortana higher than Siri? Please tell me no.
You know, I think they might actually be on par.
Well,
Siri has more integrations because it's on iPhone. But in terms of functionality on a whole, if you remove apps, I think they're actually kind of on par.
Well then. At least Siri got like a semi update, so she can now turn on the flashlight, guys. In iOS 11. She can turn on the flashlight. Well, it's a male as well. Siri can now turn on flashlights for us. I guess they answered our prayers.
Yes. Prayers answered.
The shortcuts feature is it's pretty nifty. It seems as though when they're using the layout of it is similar to Workspace. Oh, sorry, Workflow. It's like another Apple app that they have that allows you to organize your workspace, basically.
Say the stream is sponsored by. We're not sponsored by anyone at this point. This is just us. If you'd like to sponsor us, please let us know. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things, and if you are looking to get a phone, don't get it just for the virtual assistant. Get it for other things as well. Get it for the camera, get it for the hardware specs, get it for the software specs.
And most importantly, get it for the price.
Yes. Get what you can afford and what you're willing to spend for, and without like breaking the bank.
There's some really decent budget phones for 2018.
There really are. Like you don't necessarily need to spend like $1,000 for a phone in 2018. But Google kind of, oh Lord, wow. Sorry.
And you're such a Google guy.
But Apple kind of came up with some other stuff. They did a slightly new design for news, and they brought out a sidebar. They updated their
app. I have it because my phone's region is set to the US region, but I don't use the app. I would get like notifications so I could see what's going on, but I would never like go, oh, I'm going to check the news app today, see what's happening. Yeah.
I never used it when I was using an iPhone, I'll be quite honest. I barely use Google News, and that came out just recently. I mean, it's nice, and it kind of seems like Apple News is kind of like trying to mimic that a bit. But I still prefer my own personal feed, and that I've curated, or that, doesn't have that kind of flow. Because then I just get a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily need to filter through.
I actually see everything on Twitter. If it ain't on Twitter, then I'd see it.
There's that method. They upgraded their stocks app as well, which kind of, I'll be quite honest, reminded me of Robinhood, which, if I remember correctly, is a Google app.
It was a really nice update compared to seeing stocks now and stocks on iOS 12.
This is true.
I'm trying to figure out what was taking them so long to fix that app. But then again, I also don't use that app as well.
Yeah. Essentially, sorry, go on.
I was going to say they put it on the iPad along with News app, but we still don't have a calculator app pre-installed onto the iPad. Like, I don't know how could they figure out, News and stock app is better than putting a calculator app?
Because obviously, like, it'll be unwieldy, so screw everyone who wants a calculator on their iPad. Screw everyone that wants to do like those scientific calculations and stuff like that when those big, like having those big keyboards. Even though,
they target iPads for schools. So like they could be using calculators in schools.
Yeah.
Why isn't it on the app iPad?
So so for calculator on here, for example, Android, turn it sideways
and go scientific. Oh, I think you have it locked.
Yeah, pop, and so it goes scientific. This is the perfect design for iPads. You have a lot more space. You have it. It just works. I don't know why they just haven't done it. They're just being dumb at this point. Yes. I'll go with that. Like you mentioned, they did voice memos, and now those are also backed up to iCloud. So if you do a voice memo on your iPhone, your iPad, we're jumping ahead a little bit here.
iPod Touch, they're still around. Let's not forget them.
iPod Touch. But these three apps, and like I said, we're jumping ahead a little bit. They are actually also now on Macs with Mojito. I was about to say Mojito.
Moavic? Something.
Mojave Desert. So
Yes. Mojave.
Mojave. That's it. So
Do you think their parents know?
Nally's saying Google is king. White Pancakes comes back saying Apple is emperor.
I like white pancakes.
Well, one is asking, do you think the appearance of the Apple worldwide is greater than its offer? I don't know, to be quite honest. Apple does a lot of stuff as well. They don't always have the hardware to back up, but they for what they offer, they do it very well. Though sometimes it takes them ages to update stuff.
Everything's always everything is everything. Everything just it's just in sync basically.
Until it's not.
Everything just works. Yeah, like everything works until it doesn't work. Basically, with them. Yeah, it's this nice, clean, edge cut look. Everything's so precise. Like even like the volume. Well, they're the volume rocker. The volume rocker is 16 on every device. Phone, iPod Touch, iPad.
Brown nosing a little bit.
I'm just saying, like everything is basically the same for them, straight across the board. It's perfected, and it's just anyway.
So put the lotion away. Oh, you thought White Pancakes was on your side.
I can't help it, man.
They did do a really nice update to iBooks though, and they're switching the name from iBooks to Apple Books.
Apple Books,
but
which they kind of teased in a beta for one of the iOS 11s.
Yes,
they removed it from. They removed I in front of the books and named it Apple Books. And then like when you had the little splash screen, it was Apple Books. And then they removed it in the next beta after that. I guess they needed something big to say, we did this in iOS 12.
Yep. But the design, when I looked at it, it kind of reminds me of a mixture between the Kindle book system and Google
Books?
Yeah, Google Play Books. It was kind of weird. It took a lot of features from that, and even with them showing the books, like if I go into Kindle books on my Android, like it reminds me so much of it. Let me see. I have it inside dark mode right now, but even with like the apps and stuff like that, it just looks like, even with the read now and everything like that, it has that same feeling for me. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But
I actually don't use Apple Books now. They are.
Well,
you can have an iPhone 4. I feel like iPhone 4, like the 4 series, were the longest lasting iPhone ever. Like I would see them with cracks. They were all glass. They were full glass, and I'd see them cracked, like just practically destroyed, and they would still work. Like I don't know what it was with them, but that phone was like indestructible.
No, an indestructible phone is the Nokia phone. But I get what you mean. By the way, this phone is a Google Pixel 2 XL. Just so you just
this creepy smiley face is him being Tropsy.
Dwan, are you? I mean, Lord Dwan. Juan, are you being Trapsy? Say the Nokias of the iPhone series.
The iPhone series, pretty much.
Nokia phones are certified weapons.
Certified weapons.
Oh my gosh, that is true. They had a commercial with someone using it to like deter a theft, and they just like chucked it right at the person who hit them, and just like, yeah, you got my phone. Oh, the days. But I mean, no, I mean, smartphones on a whole nowadays, at least flagships, especially with Gorilla 5 glass, these things can take a hit and keep on ticking. Our other co-host, who's currently on hiatus, Chris, he dropped his iPhone, well, his Pixel 2 XL as well, and has a crack, like right up in here on his phone. Pretty much almost the same place as the photo that you showed me of the iPhone earlier today, Vicky.
Today?
Yeah.
I was shocked at that. Like, I was expecting that glass to crack way more than I did.
So, I mean, phones, even if they're glass, they're still very durable nowadays. Now, that's not me, like, saying go out and chuck them onto cement.
Nah.
But if they just happen to tumble out your hands, you know, you don't have to worry as much. Especially if you have a case. Like,
And a screen protector.
well,
Let's not forget those tempered glass screen protectors.
that is true. But here's an example. With my, what was that? Nexus 6P. How was it? Yeah, Nexus 6P. I actually had it at a case when I went to my class reunion last year. And I just happened to drop it. And this was no ordinary drop. Like, this was over the side of, like, raised up area of this person's house. And so that was a good, like, 15-foot drop. It did have a case on, but it kind of landed among the rocks. I thought it was a goner. Luckily, like I said, it has a case, but it landed glass side down. Obviously, my heart dropped. Like, shattered. Like, oh, crap. I went, got it. The phone was fine. I was completely surprised. I don't know if it was the case, but I have used, yeah, Mr. One, I have used a lot of phone brands. I've used Huawei, Samsung, LG, ZTE. I test phones where I work. So I end up spending a lot of time.
Living that good life.
So living that good life. But
I test phones through people. People purchase the phones, and I'm like, oh, you know, let me get a hands-on. I test it like that.
Say White Pancake says they got arrested for having and holding a Nokia towards a female. They just wanted her number. My. Sorry about that. You should have known better than holding a Nokia around a woman. Okay. So, next up they did CarPlay, which they didn't really do a whole lot. Like, quite literally, the only real feature of CarPlay was that they enabled third-party navigation apps like Waze, Google, and one thing that looked like it was in Chinese. If it wasn't Chinese, don't hurt me. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a little illiterate as to what the different Asian languages really look like. But yeah, it was a different Asian language. So it pretty much allows you to, instead of having to just use Apple Maps inside your car, or if you have one of those dashboards that allow it, you can download and use another app in case, you know, the one that you're using isn't all that great. Apple Maps, that is. Then they went on to their features, which is where I found some pretty interesting stuff, which kind of is their version of Google's Well-being, which is being demoed out in Android P, which we also found out was Android 9.0, which is not honestly a big surprise. So with their well-being setup, they have Do Not Disturb, where the notifications go away. The screen kind of goes black, and it just says something along the lines of calls and notifications will be silenced. Notifications will be sent to history. So when you want to actually like wake up and go through the day, then you tap on your phone, go to the notification center, and then you see your stuff like that. that you've missed. Also, if you want to do that, you can actually also press into Do Not Disturb from the control center, and you can set times, say like 1 hour until this evening when you leave this area. So it does have like a geolocation fence option as well. And until this end of the event, say like if you have something in your calendar, or you can schedule your own time, say like at 6 p.m. turn off Do Not Disturb, which, you know, you'd think was Android's had that kind of stuff for a while now. Not all of it, but for, things like the hour until this evening, event scheduling, well, scheduling times and stuff like that, they've had for a while. So they're kind of playing a little bit of catch up. But I do like what they did with the leave this area part of it. Like that, I don't think Google's done that one yet.
I like that as well. That was the one for me.
Yeah.
And then I think the example they used, was it the movies? I think maybe where we pick up, you know, oh no, the example they used was when they had like the kid on the playground and the parent wasn't paying attention because she was checking her phone. Yes, that's what it was.
That was it. Everyone laughed at that too, probably because they know they would probably do the same.
Yeah, they probably do the same thing.
Juan says, I think they're walking slowly. Nope, nothing is super interesting. Yeah, we've kind of hit a peak with stuff, and so we're getting slow increments of improvements, well-being. Like they're focusing on fine-tuning stuff now.
Yeah, it's like now it's like they gave us the devices, and now it's like, okay, you know, you guys using these devices too much. We need to kind of monitor how you're doing it. Now it's more health conscious in a way, whereas you're using your device too much, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and you spend more quality time with the family type stuff. Now.
Exactly. Yep.
So they're like slowly trying to wean us off from using our devices too much.
Kinda, yeah. The next one that they did was, and we kind of talked just now about tuning, but notifications, they'll actually allow for what they call instant tuning, which means that you can turn off notifications from a particular app, much like what you can with Android, or send them to the notifications center instead of showing up on the lock screen, which I think is really neat. I think that might be something similar with Android P. They have something called Minimize, but I'm not sure it doesn't show up on the...
Yeah, Nally, phone is life.
Say family. This one saying the only touchable difference between iPhone 4 and 10 is Siri. No, I would have to disagree with you there. They've actually had a lot of upgrades since then.
Software-wise, for 100% sure.
Yeah.
That 4 series software, oh man. Let's see. Size, display,
camera,
yep, home button,
type of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there you go with the inches, yeah. And then with the 10, there is the notch, which sadly it seems like the Google Pixel 3 from the mock-ups, they're going to be going with notch as well. Oh my gosh, I don't know why they're doing this. Anyway,
it's something. It's growing on me. I won't even lie. Like I'm kind of seeing it. Most of the new Android phones are getting it, so I'm seeing it all over Twitter. So now it's kind of like a standard thing. It's like when they first introduced the bender cameras. Those grew on me.
I will stay notchless for as long as possible.
I'll be notchless for about maybe 3 years. This one's about to hit a year. So yeah, I'll be upgrading like maybe another year or so. When they perfect the design, because it takes them, like they release the phone and then they release another one, and like the last final one would be the perfected design. And they get everything just right. Another
thing that they did with notifications, though, it kind of touches back on Siri and the whole curation thing, is that they're going to be Siri will be suggesting to disable notifications for apps that you're no longer using. or that, you know, you just keep swiping, you don't really click on the notification, which is something that Android P does. Like if I keep swiping away on something, it'll say, you haven't really clicked on this. I'm paraphrasing here. You haven't really opened up these notifications. Do you want to turn these notifications off? Siri's going to be doing that as well. And then they're going for something that Android has had for a long time, which is grouped notifications. So it's going to group notifications.
I'm actually excited for that one.
Nally's saying he's still running 11.2, waiting for the jailbreak.
Jailbreak. I'll be there for a while.
Yeah, you will be.
I gave up on jailbreaks.
Just get your phone unlocked one time. Well, no, because then knowing Nally, you probably want customization and like different fonts and backgrounds and like themes and all that kind of stuff. I can totally see Nally doing that.
I'm a default person, so everything doesn't matter to me.
But speaking back onto what you were talking about earlier, Vicky, about like managing your use of the phone, they are going to be doing reports. So like there is weekly activity summaries of like how and when you're using your phone, which apps, which most notifications from which apps you're getting the most, stuff like that. You can also set app limits. So let's say if you want to use Instagram for only an hour or two a day, you can actually say, limit me to 2 hours, which I think is an interesting move, to be quite honest. And then like 5 minutes before you've hit your limit, it'll give you a notification to say you've got 5 minutes left. And then when you hit your limit, it's gonna like gray it out and say like time limit, you've spent X hours on app today. And do you want to give the option to ignore the limit? And it kind of seemed like they were going to then, even if you ignore the limit, it will come back a little bit later and try to ask you again, like, you've used it for X amount of period of time. They didn't show that as the example, but they kind of alluded to it with the way how he phrased it. There's also going to be apparently reporting for kids. So if you are an adult, a parent, and you've got kids, you can actually set reports for them as well to come on your phone. So you can kind of set allowances, set downtimes to say like they can't use their phone between these hours. You can restrict which apps that they can use and always allow certain apps like the phone, for example. And you can also set content and privacy things as well. So like what they're able to do and not do. All of this, I think, is great. Like this is stuff that they should have done.
Yeah.
I
thought those were nice as well.
It's about time they actually allow people better viewing for battery usage as well.
Yeah, after that big fiasco last year, they couldn't avoid it.
Pretty much.
Oh man.
I think they do need to upgrade. The next thing they need to upgrade though is their data usage section. Like that needs a revamp as well.
I think they adjusted it a bit.
They did, but it's still.
I think they added now. I think now they added charts where you could see your data usage and it goes up. It's no longer just, I think, 24 hours. It goes up further. If I remember correctly.
Well, I mean, one thing that they need to finally add is, cycles. No, just keep your statistics running from the day that you started. And you have to then manually reset the statistics if you want to get new statistics. Go like what Android does. Set it to say like between like every 14th of June and to the 13th of July. Like every 14th of the month to the 13th of the next month. That's when my data is. And allow you to set it based on whenever you apply for data. It's that kind of thing. They don't do that. They quite literally just, you start up your phone and it just starts like calculating how much data you've used. That could go on for years, and so you don't know like how much data you've used for the past month.
Hey, let me check.
I can tell you that's not there.
Nope. Nope.
And so you quite literally have to go if you want to like figure out how much data you're using. Let's say the month your data allotment starts. You then have to go inside the app, click reset statistics, and then go through that. It's a manual process each and every time, and that is crazy.
Yep, mine was last reset October 2016, and so far, according to them, for my current data period, I've used about 31 gigs.
Exactly. So you have no idea how you've used your data for the past month.
I gotta check the video again because I know I watched the video. I think it was yesterday. Where everything Apple Pro showed how they slightly updated the data usage tab. They didn't address it at WWDC, but when you went through the phone, you noticed that it was something that they changed. They added like graphs now, and they adjusted the time frame. Was that the battery usage? No, I think maybe that was the battery. I gotta double check. I'll let you know.
Yeah. There's a lot they didn't actually talk about on WWDC, which is kind of funny. But the next thing was iMessage. And they kind of, with that, they then talked about animojis and stuff like that with tongue detection. That there are 4 new animojis, which is the T-Rex, the ghost, a cat, and wow.
You thought the cat was a tiger?
I think it might have been a tiger.
Because they had the cat already.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was a tiger. I don't remember what the last one was. That's kind of weird.
I don't remember the last one either. I remember the dinosaur.
Yes.
So I was thinking of Rex.
But then they pulled out something I totally was not expecting. Well, actually, no. I kind of expected it, but at the same time, I'm surprised they did it.
I was expecting to go through with it.
Like, they blew Samsung out of the water when it came to Samsung's AR emojis.
AR emojis.
And they came out with Memojis.
Memojis! And they're so cute!
This is how Samsung should have done it. I will be quite honest. Instead of just using your face and going based solely off of that, they should have gone the Bitmoji route where you can customize it exactly how you want it. Hat, hair, wig, glasses. Like quite literally, you can customize everything about what you want to put on. From your skin color to the tint in your eyeglasses. That right there was excellence from Apple. I will give them kudos to that. I will not even hold anything back. Vicky, stop with your little and by the way, yes.
I thought that was pretty neat. That's so cool. I thought animojis were cute, but I'd admit I'd probably buy the iPhone 10 for Memojis.
See, the thing that still irks me about Memojis and animojis on a whole is that it still only can be used. Exclusive? Well, no.
Yeah.
It's not just that it's exclusive to the iPhone 10. It's exclusive only to iMessage and Apple services. You can't use it for stuff like WhatsApp, which is something that you and I use quite often. So that kind of defeats the purpose completely. And so what? I can only use it with people who have iPhones. That's my little...
I don't iMessage that much people, and I don't FaceTime that much people. So
exactly.
I guess because the country we live in, so I guess it's more beneficial for persons to live outside of our region. So for them, they love it. But for us, it's like, okay, I love it, but I won't use it.
I think we probably, I would guesstimate here, we have about probably 30% iPhone users here in the Bahamas. The rest are probably Android.
30%?
I would assume between 30 to 42%. Somewhere up in there.
More.
I wouldn't guess so.
I feel like everybody had like an iPhone in these newer days. Like most even if it's on a little 16 gigabyte iPhone.
You gotta remember, like not everyone can afford an iPhone, but a lot of people can afford Androids.
Very true. Then you have those that can't afford an iPhone but still try to get it.
Exactly.
Aw.
Say adults with jobs have iPhones.
Lots of iPhones.
Even
Touche.
them, some of them don't have iPhones.
When I got my first iPhone, I was in college, and I paid it off with it on my credit card. And I just paid for it later.
There's that aspect of it too. One, honestly, the copying, it happens across the board. Like, everyone copies from everyone when they can see that there's going to be a certain standard
Yeah.
that people
Like
want.
once the industry wants it and it's a high demand, they're gonna copy it.
Wow, white pancakes, really? Tech heads and bro kids have Androids. Wow. Okay. Well, Nali, who's in the chat right now, he has an Android. I mean, he's a tech head and he has an iPhone. At least I think he's still watching.
He also has more of the ecosystem.
This
I think
is
he has
true.
an iPad as well.
I think he has. I don't know if he has an iPad. I think he has a Surface Pro.
No,
But
never mind.
he has a MacBook, if I remember correctly.
Oh, he's a Mac guy. I like him already. I so hate having to like use people's PC computers. Like the keyboard, the placements aren't the same, and I'm so accustomed to a Mac keyboard, and like the placements, I'd be there trying to press command and like control all the way to the edge of the keyboard.
By the way, they did add some other stuff to iMessage with the whole emojis and stuff like that. You can add shapes, text. Oh, it was a koala bear. That's what it was. I just remembered. And I only remember that because of the FaceTime thing, which I'm going to talk about next. But yeah, essentially you can add shapes, text, filters, stickers, emojis to the picture that or video that you're going to share. And with FaceTime, they're actually allowing group FaceTime up to 32 people.
I guess they waited long enough, so they had to give persons more than what they wanted.
And
Each person. That's a lot of people, though. Like, who are you going to FaceTime? It's 32.
I guess for business
how did
meetings,
they come up with that number?
I have no idea. I know Google Hangouts used to be 15 as a limit. I think they went up since then. I don't know what it is, but they're probably trying to compete against that. It does look interesting. Like, instead of Google Hangouts,
The layout is interesting.
yeah, like as the person talks, like they move up a chain almost. So it's one person here, one person here, one person here, one person there.
And
And
they
then
have like the whole bar on the bottom, and you could like slide across.
yeah, and then as someone talks, they move up from the bottom and they move closer up to the top, and then it expands.
I want to see how that's gonna look on, because they showed it on the phone. Clearly, they got to sell a phone, but I want to see how it looks on
a Mac.
Macs. Yes,
It looks essentially the same way.
and probably iPads as well.
It's
To see how it's gonna be placed.
it's gonna be the exact same way, because I think they showed it on the Mac as well.
Oh,
Apparently you can also FaceTime with just audio. So in case you're not presentable, you can answer with just audio.
call on FaceTime call.
One says, I like that you need more than 10 megabit per second internet speed to connect 32 people on one phone, so that is interesting. And that's another thing, like that is a lot to be pulling in.
I barely have 2 people to FaceTime. Actually, no, never mind. Some of my nephews called me.
That doesn't really count a whole lot. One thing that I found interesting though, and it kind of feels like they were kind of going against WhatsApp with this, is that they allow for group chats to have the group FaceTime. So quite literally you can jump in and out of a group call that's going on. Like that I liked. Actually, that kind of reminds me a lot of Discord. Like you can jump in and out of a call on Discord.
I'm actually waiting, while we're speaking about WhatsApp, I'm waiting to see when they're going to implement group calling.
That would, yeah, I'm kind of waiting for that too. I think they've
I,
been
I,
talking
I
about
feel like
that.
it's happening, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
They
it's
did it on the beta.
yeah, they're talking about. Well, there's been talk about it happening. It just hasn't come out yet. Oh yeah, and you can apply the same kind of filters and stickers and combine them. So quite literally, you can. During the display, they had someone using the cartoon filter with the koala animoji for a cartoonistic koala effect, which is interesting. Needless, but
I'm
interesting.
wondering if that's also an exclusive iPhone 10 feature as well. Being able to add the filters, the stickers, text, stuff like that onto.
I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna have that with iPhone. I mean, with iOS 12 across the board, because it doesn't really require like all the sensors that Face ID does with. That Face ID does with animojis and memojis. Like you and I, we've already talked about the whole sensor thing, and like
you can cover the sensor, and so it'd make a difference.
exactly. So, yeah, but that was the majority of stuff they talked about at WWDC.
And then you had like the hidden stuff, which was
like developers of non-subscription apps being able to offer free time-based trial periods before presenting a full unlock option by setting up a non-consumable in-app purchase that doesn't cost any money. With the app then must specify the time frame the trial is being offered and clearly explains to users that the content and services it includes. Then they also added in like two-factor authorization will automatically take you to the app and put in any texted code. So you get the text message, then it'll just like have a button and automatically take you to the app.
Yeah, I'm just adding there. That's then going to make me have to put on two-factor authentication, which was annoying. I took it off, but it was annoying.
I could well imagine.
I'd have to, in order for me to log on to iCloud, like I'd have to go on my computer, or it would send, and it sends to the device randomly.
Yeah.
So if my iPad is over there, I got to go to my iPad to allow it from there. So it was annoying. So I took it off. But now they're adding all these cool stuff, and now they want it's making me want to put it back on.
They also have another thing with it too. Like, the code will automatically show up inside the quick tap bar, so that you just click on that, and it puts inside the code inside wherever you want to put it. So that's also another neat little thing for two-factor. Along the same kind of line with passwords, though, is that they're now allowing for third-party password managers to enter in passwords. So for example, if you use something like LastPass or 1Password, something like that, previously you would have had to go inside the app, copy the password, go back to the app that you wanted to put the password in, and then like paste the password.
They're trying to get people to use their software.
Yes.
So with Keychain, I use Keychain. I use LastPass and everything else because clearly the whole person. So yeah, I could see why they didn't do it before.
And then they're actually with Keychain, now that you mentioned that, they're doing it where it's automatically giving you smart passwords and secure passwords as well. So it's a lot easier as a password manager having that as a default. So they're trying to upgrade themselves with that as well. With the next thing that they have is that Face ID, you can actually add two faces instead of it instead. So if you have a spouse or family member or a friend that you trust, they can now get access into your phone.
Yeah,
Especially if something happens to you.
Yeah, I don't know why they only did one the first time. I guess they were still perfecting the software.
Probably. Then they fixed the iPhone 10 issues, which was unintentional screenshots and issues with force closing apps, where it won't take screenshots unless the screen has already been on for a while. And when you swipe up, you can swipe up on apps to force close them instead of holding down on the screen first.
It would have been annoying. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
Juan is saying that they showed NASA videos for some reason. We're going to get to that part in a little bit.
Oh yeah, with the Apple TV.
An Apple TV app and how you can connect it with your Apple products in your house, like Apple TV and surrounding speakers. I'm not sure what you mean by what would happen to you. Oh, what I said by that was like, let's say you passed away and like a loved one needs to get access into your phone. Then they'd be able to access your phone. You might not have given them your password, for example. But
they're like me and don't remember passwords.
Or that. So situations like that could help. But, you know, now you have less of an excuse to say, well, babe, my phone can't, like, take in 2 faces, so I can't add you. And you're just being shady as hell.
And they also, they changed a few things with the iPads. So with iOS 12 on the iPads, instead of them having the time in the middle, it's now to the left corner. And now Control Center, instead of swiping up to activate Control Center and the multitasking, Control Center is on the top of the right, similar to how it is on the iPhone 10. And then when you swipe in the middle, you're going to have, the multitasking page. And then it basically has the gestures of the iPad 10. So you could swipe up and turn to go back to a previous app and stuff like that.
Yep.
They're gearing up for September with this new iPad. I really hope it doesn't have the notch.
It will.
It doesn't need to though. Like, you have to have a bezel on an iPad. You have to have some form of bezel.
It's gonna have a notch. I can tell you right now, it'll have a notch. Like, I can feel that in my bone. It'll have a notch. Well, bones,
and
not bone.
They moved how they moved the number, the time as well. It's like, okay, you clearly gearing up for it to have a notch. I don't want it to have a notch. What's next? The computer's gonna have notches?
Yep.
If they put a notch on everything, if they put a notch on one thing and then go to the iPad, they need to do it for everything else. So everything else is uniform.
Don't be surprised if they do that. That way they can have smaller bezels on the MacBooks, and then you just get the notch right there, and it can do Face ID and everything like that. It's totally gonna happen. I do not like how Apple discards their older phones by these upgrades. Well, I mean, they are keeping a lot of phones within the thing.
Yeah.
You're going from it's essentially the same phones that the iOS 11 has. Is what? Yeah.
That's funny.
Hey there, Edward Bastian. Apple trying to take it up a notch. Oh, I get the pun there. I got it
as well.
And Juan saying iOS 10 won't get the upgrade, means get wrecked. Well, I mean, any phone that has iOS 10 or 11 will get the 12. But typically, yeah, you are right. They start to cut off stuff. So it'll be interesting if like they start keeping it at the iPhone 5S here on and start to improve stuff from there. I kind of doubt it.
I'm waiting to see when they're going to cut them.
Yeah, they're probably going to cut them in the next update.
Probably, because it's usually the MO2 after a while cut the older phones, but this year I guess they decided to do something different. I guess after that whole fiasco with the battery situation, how they were making people upgrade, they wanted to, I guess, make it seamless. But we're not trying to get you guys to upgrade. We're going to allow you to have the new software, even though your phone is an older phone, and it's going to help when we're going to allow the new software to pretty much boost the performance on your phone.
Honestly, I think they did it. This could just be me being a little salty, but I think they kind of did it just so they can have like that extra leg up on Google and Microsoft. Because when you hear them, they keep saying free upgrades. Like, they pioneered free upgrades. And I'm like, okay, Android was always free upgrades, so you're kind of wrong with that. But Windows, yeah, whenever they have an upgrade, you typically need to buy the next version. So okay, fair enough. But then they were like, oh, well, then they were like, Android doesn't have proper upgrade management. So how do we really drive that point home? We're going to keep you guys on for an extra year.
Because it's going to boost their stats, and people be like, oh, you know, how much persons are using iPhones in the world now, and how much persons have installed iOS 12 on their devices.
Exactly. By the way, hello there, Gwiz2334. Thanks for joining in.
That's true, Juan. If you don't buy the new iPhone, you miss the fun.
Pretty much. And that's what they've been doing for a while now. So, oh, well, welcome from Brazil. We're in the Bahamas, so we're kind of close-ish by.
We're in the same region.
Yes.
So we have the same Netflix.
Yes.
And same Crunchyroll.
But what I meant by upgrade management, earlier on inside the show and earlier on inside WWDC, they kind of threw out, you know, that iPhones, they currently are at 85%, 81%, I think it was, with people,
Yes.
with people upgrading to iOS 11, whereas Android Oreo, which is the current latest version, it's only 8% of people, wait, 6% of people. So they were saying that Android doesn't have proper Android upgrade management, which I said is true because Google doesn't force anyone to keep updating their phones to the latest versions. So if you buy like a $50 phone, don't expect that to get updated. So that's going to continuously stay on pretty much the version that you bought it on.
And then the app developers as well. They don't force you to update your phone in order to use their app.
Pretty much.
There's an app, I think back when it was like the iPhone 3G era. After a certain while, if you didn't have the latest OS, you wouldn't be able to use that application. You have to, and if your phone back then, the phone was basically obsolete, so you had to get the whole new phone in order to use the application and get the updates.
Yep. Honestly, it's great to have someone from Brazil, Geese, but I mean, I think people misunderstand people from our regions. Like, quite literally in the past, I've had people that thought us in the Bahamas lived in huts.
Yeah, and have grass skirts and coconut bras.
Yeah, pretty much like what you used to think about Hawaii, like applied to us as well. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding for the Latin America region. So, I mean, it's great that we have more people from our region that actually are like on here, either watching or streaming and doing stuff. I think that's awesome. So, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Like, I think it's great what you're doing, and actually like bringing the Latin America region up, and to say, you know, we are watching, we are here, that kind of thing. Something else that they didn't mention is that you can actually share passwords with AirDrop if you're running iOS 12 using their new keychain features. So you just go into it, hold down, click AirDrop, and share with the person that you're AirDropping with, which could be awesome, especially if you want to share a password to a particular, like your Netflix, for example. Because, we do have people that share Netflix. That is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, the next thing to that is you can actually ask Siri to show you your passwords. So, you quite literally would say, okay, S, show me my password. And they would open up your iCloud keychain and you can identify yourself with Face ID, password, thumbprint, that kind of thing. And it'll open it up for you. And something that kind of is with iOS, but kind of not at the same time, was something that they did to the AirPods. And no, it's actually not cold here at all, Geese.
Rather hot.
Yeah. Like, go outside, you're probably going to sweat unless there's a good breeze. with AirPods, they have something called Live Listen, which was typically something just for accessibility or disabled people, and you had to pretty much have, how should I call it, hearing aids certified through Apple's Made for iPhone hearing aid program. AirPods can now be used for that, and what that allows is something that's awesome, and something that we talked about during one of our past episodes, which is directional hearing. So let's say you're in a crowded room, essentially. Hearing aids would have allowed you to hear what one particular person was saying, so it actually focuses in, like, in front of you or to the left of you or something like that. So you can actually hear things instead of being all in one, you just hear that one thing, essentially. And now that AirPods can do that, I think a lot of people are going to be doing that as well, especially when they're out and about in crowded spaces, so they can hear what's going on, what people are saying. But that doesn't mean it's a replacement for hearing aids, though.
Right.
Yeah. If you need a hearing aid, still get a hearing aid. Oh, that's a lot of stuff they didn't actually talk on.
Yeah, it was a lot. There's a lot of hidden features.
Oh, it's cold in Brazil. I wouldn't have expected that, to be quite honest. What's the temperature? Also, they then moved on to watchOS. But before we go on to that, with the whole feel good thing, Conan O'Brien made another kind of joke. I'm going to play that for you guys right now. Here we go.
More time with your children. More time with your special someone. More time outdoors. More time enjoying life. More time being you. Introducing the iPhone Basic. No buttons, no screen, so you can get back to your life. The iPhone Basic, we release you.
Yeah, so the iPhone Basic, no screen, it just makes noise whenever you get a notification. Yeah. That was a little joke from Conan. I think that was a great joke. Especially with everyone trying to go for the whole wellness thing and screen time and so on and so forth. Let's see, that's 16 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. Wow, that's 60 degrees. That's actually, like, what's the current temperature here? Current temperature.
Hey Siri.
See, I was trying not to do that.
Hey Siri. What's the temperature?
It's currently 80 degrees.
Pretty sure this is Fahrenheit. Yeah, Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so for you, it would be 27 degrees Celsius. So yeah, we're 11 points higher over here. That's why I say, like, we're you go outside and you're gonna sweat.
And like last week, it was overcast a lot. And like now this week is like hot, heat.
Yes. Take care, geese. But one thing that happened with watchOS is that they currently had well, I think it's still happening, but there was an issue that occurs when you're updating to watchOS 5. And so they kind of paused that. But the things that they say coming out with the new version is that, much like Juan said earlier, they actually allow you to have competitions with friends, 7-day competitions, for example. So you guys can have a competition on hiking or cycling or running, that kind of thing.
Watching people get out and get active instead of sitting on their phones all day.
Pretty much. So it kind of goes back to that well-being situation. And it'll show you progress that your friends made and like where your placement is among those friends. So if you shared like with 2 or 3 friends or something like that, it'll say like you're here, this is how many points you need to beat your friend, that kind of thing. They also added in yoga, hiking, and outdoor running. Well, they added enhancements to outdoor running. And one thing that I thought was interesting was the automatic workout detection. So if you decide to start jogging or something like that and forget to say, you know, I'm starting a workout, you can go back and say, oh yeah, well, I was doing a workout at this time, and it'll add that information into your fitness. And then when you've stopped, it'll also say, well, it seems like you stopped. Do you want to stop? I think that was excellent. Especially since Google's been doing crap with their watch system. I think it's great. I also said not like the one I saw in Stealth Android 2 years back. Haha. Stealth offers most of these 2 years back. That's true. Hello there, Sean. watchOS also offered some other new features like walkie-talkie mode, which can work over cellular data and Wi-Fi, which is interesting. They allow for the same Siri shortcuts like on the iPhone. They allow for third-party apps for the watch face and also background audio, which I thought was a nice little touch, especially when you're like listening to music or podcasts or stuff like that. Another quality of life feature was raise to talk to Siri. So instead of saying like, hey S, you just raise the phone up and you say, what's the weather like today? And it'll automatically pick up. So you don't need to continuously say like, hey S, out in public and then alert everyone that you're, talking to your watch.
I see.
Like, I think like doing this is enough to warrant attention to yourself, and they were kind of right with that. So yeah.
Oh, I feel like I always speak to Siri on my watch, but I don't have it all the way up here. I think that's very odd.
Well, there are those people that will be like, James Bond, hey, watch.
I feel like some people are going to be with the walkie-talkie. I feel it. I'm about to be there.
I
they
could
would
totally
have the watch all up in their mouth doing stupidness.
They also have interactive notifications so that you can like click to pay for stuff, check in for flights or restaurants, add people to your restaurant reservations. A lot of interesting features that typically you would need to actually have gone on your phone for. They're building those kind of options in. Yes, it's a spy, Juan. It's a spy. Another interesting thing, and this is actually something that I saw from one of the very, very first sets of smartwatches, which was before Google even started really doing anything. It's allowed you to open up websites. Now, these are the formats of the websites for small screens, and it's mainly built for like apps that require you to like read through stuff or check like a menu or things like that. I also kind of alluded to it earlier, but yes, now that Apple Watch can now support podcasts, so you can listen to your podcast via your watch. I'm not sure how comfortable I feel doing that though, like out in public, just having my podcast being played from my watch.
Oh, it's connected to the AirPods.
Okay, that I can appreciate.
Yeah, like how when they did the whole cellular commercial with the Apple Watch in September, they had the guy on the skateboard at the train station, had the AirPods in his ear. Yeah, so that's what it's going to be.
Okay, I got
They're just not going to have they're just now going to have the podcast app onto the watch, so you can leave your phone home and be able to access your podcast, your podcast that you listen to from the watch.
But if you don't have an eSIM, you're pretty much screwed with that.
Yeah, so like us, we're screwed.
Yep. They also then brought in smart grouped notifications, just like what they did with the iPhone.
That's good, because when you have like a clutter of notifications.
Yeah. It has the same issue with Google's version as well. So I'm glad someone has addressed it.
I'm glad they're doing it well. Because when I pull out my notification tab, like I have notifications probably like last week.
Oh.
It's because I saw it, I just never opened it.
Another interesting thing was student ID cards. So essentially you can like take a photo of your student ID and then you can pay for stuff or get access into those like locked off areas that are just for students and stuff like that in like at your school. And it works for the iPhone as well.
You can have it in the wallet section, right? If I remember
Yes.
correctly. Yeah.
So it only works for certain schools right now.
Clearly it didn't work for us.
Yeah, clearly not us. We're not even on the list. I'm surprised Liberty University isn't on there, especially since they're one of the bigger schools. But I guess they're going more for the east side first, because they have Duke, Temple, Johns Hopkins, University of Oklahoma, Santa Clara University, University of Alabama, and they say more to come. But yeah. Oh, someone's trying to call me right now. I cannot take that. And it's still gonna ring through. Okay. There we go. Then they had a bunch of other stuff. Like, you can able to manually choose your Wi-Fi network. You can answer FaceTime as audio on your watch. You can customize the control center. It has Hindi localization. It has built-in Parkinson's research. Information. It has an audio controller. You can add the stocks from the watch. You can install software tonight onto the watch, like say install it later on tonight. You can add cities into weather. It has notification tuning, memories in the photo watch face, new emoji pickers, new awards tab, air quality, wind direction, and speed, along with UV index in the weather portion. And they brought out, since it's Pride Month, a Pride watch band and watch face.
I have my Pride watch face on. You can't see.
There you go.
Yeah, since it's Pride Month, I'm keeping it on for the month. I want the band, but I don't want to ship it. And I don't know nobody going away at the moment. So I'm probably going to have to wait. And it's only available for this 1 month.
Ouch. I would have just shipped it if I were you. But, I mean, why don't you want to ship it?
No, I feel like third party, I feel like the shipping companies here sketchy. I could ship it to my cousin. I think my mom's supposed to be traveling there next month. I could wait. I'm probably not gonna wear it. I just want it because it's a limited edition band.
Oh my god!
I didn't get it. I didn't get it last year.
Oh my gosh!
Well, it's a limited band. They only have them like 1 month month out of a year.
I mean, do you, Vicky? Like, if that's what you want, I say go for it.
$50.
You heard yourself just now, right?
It's only $50?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why we wanted the cheapest things from Apple. Actually, wait, no, yeah. Actually, no. Yeah, I think the cases are about $50 as well. So that's probably one of the cheapest stuff from Apple you can get.
That's true. Oh, sorry. Let me see. Someone's messaging
Oh, I
me.
know something we missed from iOS 12. With updating your phone now, you may have the option to automatically set your phone to automatically update, like how they have it for the apps in the App Store. You can set it to automatically update your apps, so you can set your phone to automatically do that. You'll wait to see if they keep it as the betas continue to roll out.
That would be interesting. Let's see, Juan saying Google has to do something for streamers and YouTubers because Apple cannot, like vlogging system or streaming systems. Huh. Well, I mean, Google has YouTube. So that's kind of their vlogging system and streaming system, because we're actually, well, you're watching us stream on YouTube right now. So I guess in that aspect, they've kind of already got that covered. Then they talked about Apple TV, and there wasn't a whole lot to really talk about. Yes, it has.
Like they skimped it.
Yeah, they kind of.
Poor TV.
Yeah, they talked a lot about the past upgrade, like it having 4K HDR10, which is Dolby Vision, even though you still can't watch YouTube on 4K because of like disagreements between them and Apple, like them and Google. They did bring out the fact that they're going to be bringing out Dolby Atmos, though there are some issues with third-party systems and currently Dolby, because they don't want you really tweaking the Dolby experience anymore. So you can't really customize it. You have to leave it stock. They're going to be bringing out live sports and news, or I think they may have already started this. That seems like a fight against YouTube TV.
Which is only available which isn't available in our region.
Nope, and it's only available in certain cities in the States as well. So Apple TV kind of has a leg up on them on that aspect. Not only that, they have another leg up because they are working with cable companies in France, Switzerland, and the United States, so that you can have either a single sign-in or a zero sign-in. So single sign-in is where you would go and log in, it would connect to your broadband service, and then take you to you would have to go to a website, put in your cable company's information, and it would give you a password to then enter onto your TV. And then it would give you access to all your channels and stuff like that you would have from the cable company. Zero sign-in, which is something new that they're bringing out, bypasses that. It connects directly to the cable company's broadband system, recognizes all of your information, and you just go about ahead and do what you want to do. But it's only on 3 cable providers at the moment, which is Salt, Charter, and I forget the one that's for France. It's also going to have Siri built in, so you can, say whatever you want to say. They are working on an iPhone remote button in the control center, along with working with remote control makers Creston, Savant, and Control 4 to build support for Apple TV that will also have Siri support as well. So they're really going... They may not be doing much, but they're doing a lot of integrations with, working and partnering up with other companies. And touching on something that Juan mentioned earlier, with the aerial locations, they built it in so that you can actually see, instead of it just being aerial, they show it where it has where it is in the world. And then they worked with the International Space System and CASIS to get photographs from space so you can actually see things across the world, especially since the International Space System does 19 orbits around the world, all within one day. So they see the world quite often from a lot of different time zones. They have plenty of time and to take photos. So that's essentially what's happening on that.
I'd leave my TV on for my Apple TV just to play the photos. So it looks really nice. It's going to turn off eventually, but I've actually haven't went to the settings to put my Apple TV on sleep, hence I brought it in my room. I just leave it and let the screen play until it turns itself off, and then afterwards the TV's going to turn off. But the photos that I've seen from what they've had from last year, it's pretty nice. It's good to see that now you can see where the locations are. Maybe persons may travel to them now.
That would be great if that was the case. But I mean, some of these places, they're kind of remote, and that's somewhat of the...
Oh, minus the ones in space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because right now, one that I've seen a lot is usually a city. Usually the city light scenery. So that you can visit. But you don't know the name of the place, so...
Yeah. But yeah, it's that actual feature on Apple TV's one. So you can go ahead and turn that on your Apple TV if you have one. And then they came to the Mac Daddy macOS. Oh, before we switch on to that, watchOS. There was also something that they didn't talk on. Those $10,000 to $17,000 Apple Edition watches? Bye-bye. They're not getting the updates anymore. So, that sucks for them.
Yeah, I know. And they stopped the update with the first generation, the Apple Watch Sport series. So they call them seatbelt. They don't really give them a name. They call Apple still calls them Apple Watch Sport, but consumers would call them like Series 0. So those aren't getting the software update anymore.
Yeah, that would be like I would feel bad if I was someone who spent $10,000 on a smartwatch and then it no longer has updates.
Especially that's from like the first generation.
That would hurt. That would hurt a lot.
Yeah. Apple seems to show the new watches with the phone, so it's like they come with a pair. So like you get the new phone, you gotta get the new watch.
Yeah.
You're playing with your mind, basically.
Pretty much. So, yeah, that's the one thing I didn't like about smartwatches. Like you have to it's not something that's going to be stable and upgraded over time. It's 2 updates and you're done. Get a new watch. I don't know how I feel about that.
I could see why they cut the first generation models, because the process from jump weren't pretty good. So I could see they're not going to be able to handle watchOS 5.
Yeah, I could agree with on that. But back to macOS. So before we get into this, I want you all to know not every Mac is going to get this update. Pretty much any Mac that was made before 2012 will not get it. Ones made from 2012 onwards will. So if you have a plastic MacBook or a MacBook Pro, Air, Mini, if you have an iMac from 2009, 10 or 11, all those, you're not getting Mojave. One saying, when I bought it, I should have bought a normal watch then. Yeah. But
I usually buy the watch to match the material on my phone. So because I have the 8 and it has the aluminum sides, the watch has to match the aluminum sides. So if you get a 10, how it has the stainless steel sides, I would prefer to get the stainless steel Apple Watch, just so like it matches. Since it's like a pair. So that's how I feel like it should be done.
Vicky has her own certain kind of ways that she does this stuff, people. Also, we got a little bit of clarification on the name and what happened. For the past 4 years, they've been going with California-based areas, mainly mountains, like El Capitan and Yosemite. I can't say the name properly.
I remember El Capitan. I don't remember the one after that. I remember Sierra and High Sierra.
Yeah. I know it's like Yosemite or...
Yosemite or something like that. It was Yosemite, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yosemite, I think it was. So they moved from cats to areas in California, which were mountains, and now they've moved to another area in California called the Mojave Desert. Which I'll be honest, I never really thought of that as being... No, I've heard of it. I just never thought it was in California. Mojave Desert. The Mojave Desert is in California.
Oh, wow.
Primarily within Eastern California and Southern Nevada. Wow, okay. I learned something.
I wonder which desert they're going to do next.
That's the thing, especially if they want to keep it within, you know, California, unless they want to change that. But they kind of moved on from there. There's a bunch of new features that they're building into it, like full theming for dark mode, which is awesome. Windows 10, no version of Windows actually has this without using a third-party app like Windows Blinds or something like that that reskins everything and doesn't always do a good job at it. This is innately built in, and everything goes black. Your menus, your action bar, your Explorer, your app, well, your programs, everything goes dark mode. Windows, you can turn your taskbar black, and you can turn your start menu black, and that's essentially dark mode. File Explorer, no, that's going to stay white. Your apps, white, or whatever.
That was our one now as well. Well, the one we have now, the Find the Bar can turn dark, and that's just about it. I mean, I don't use it because I'm one of those people that I don't really use dark mode. I don't know, it just looks odd on my eyes for me, so I don't use it.
She's a child of the light, people. She's a child of the light. The next thing I thought was really interesting was dynamic desktop.
I can't wait to use that. Because my desktop, my backgrounds are usually the default OS background. So I can't wait to use the dynamic background or the dynamic desktop.
I use custom backgrounds, but then I overlay them with something from Steam called what's it called exactly? Before I mess up this, Wallpaper Engine. So that allows me to have like animations on my background and stuff like that when I'm actually like just have my wallpaper up, and it'll have an animation or a wallpaper, and I can continuously update it like that, which is, I think, neat for me, but that's me. As for dynamic desktop, I think it's great because it allows you to pretty much group things by well, the dynamic desktop allows for changing of stuff. Well, like if you're Vicquell, for example, it would, and I got a little bit ahead of myself with this one, but it'll change the desktop, let's say from a daytime photo to a midday photo to a nighttime photo. So it's dynamically changing based on the time of day. What I was starting to get into was stacks, which is also nice, which allows you to group stuff that's on your desktop by types, date, or even tags. And it stays stacked even if you drop new stuff. The new stuff will jump into one of those stacks of stuff.
To those persons that have a cluttered desktop, I so hate that. My boss desktop is like, so like, how can you find things on that? My desktop is usually empty.
I have 2 or 3 rows of stuff on my desktop, and that's it. But they're all stuff that it's kind of weird. Now that I think about it, I don't really need it because I'm barely ever on my desktop.
Exactly. I'm always in Finder most of the time. Yeah. So I don't, if I put it on my desktop, it's there for me to remember to put it on the hard drive. Then once I put it on the hard drive, I remove it off my desktop.
Exactly. Talking about Finder, they actually allowed for a new gallery view. So you've got column, list, details, and now gallery. And no, people who are using Windows, this is not like the one that we use. This is actually a little bit nicer. Because it shows a lot more information, and not just for photos and videos. You can see, and granted there are documents that you can do this with, but still not 100% the way that Apple's doing it with the Mac. It shows off a huge expanded area to show you photos, videos, documents, spreadsheets, PowerPoints, PDFs, and then also has a new sidebar which you can see metadata of the photos and videos and quick actions and edits. So if you want to like edit a photo, turn it around, like rotate it, this kind of thing. If you have a PDF, it has like a quick action which you can customize to say add like a watermark onto the PDF. So it's interesting. Like, I like what they've done with that. I don't know if you're gonna really use it that much like that, Vicky, but what are your thoughts on those?
I probably won't use it. I may actually no, I probably won't use it. I won't even lie. I haven't created documents since I was in COB. Same thing with spreadsheets. Same thing with PDFs. So the one I would use the most is Quick Look, because I use that most, like maybe 99% of the time when I go look at something. I use it the most.
Speaking of Quick Look, they've integrated markup into that now. Markup is another kind of program with it. That allows you to do things like signing documents and stuff like that using a digital version of your signature, and a lot of other features. I don't know if you want to like just give a quick explanation of markup. You know it better than I do. So markup is basically, I think it started off on the iPads, I want to say. Whereas basically what they use on the iPad Pro is for when you want to use, iPad Pro and 2018 iPad now, when you use the Apple Pencil, you can quickly sign your signature on a document, send it off. You can quickly circle a certain area on a document. You can add text. I think you can add shapes as well, and so on. So that's kind of what it is, and they transported it to the macOS. Well, they have it on the macOS already, but now you're able to quickly look by pressing space on a document, and you're able to mark up the document. So you can add text, add your signature if it's like a PDF, and the example they used was like a field trip form. You just could press space, it's gonna pull it up in quick look. I have your signature there, and you can just like right click and send it off to the school via email. Yeah, so pretty overall a really neat set of features that allows you to do a lot of different stuff. Essentially, if you use something like DocuSign, you don't really need DocuSign like that, because you can put in your signature in using, well, Mac's default features. The next thing that they have is screenshots. They've actually added some little enhancements to that. So when you take a screenshot, it shows a thumbnail in the bottom right, which you can click on. It opens up markup, so which allows you to edit the picture however you want, like do magnification, stuff like that. It also allows for a new HUD, or heads-up display, which gives you options for capturing the entire screen, the selected window or a selected portion of the screen, and you can also record the entire screen or a selected portion of the screen as well. And then you can drag and drop either the screenshot or the recording's thumbnail into a new document that you're making, or into a document that you're working on, which then works really nicely with another feature called continuity camera, which if you're in a document, you can right click, say take a photo, and so it opens up the camera on your phone. You take a photo, and then you say use photo, and it shows up in the document. And you can do the same thing with scanning a document, where you right click scan document, opens up the camera, scans your document, and then it goes up inside whatever document you want to show it as. This same thing works if you're recording a video. Backtrack on that. I was talking about screenshots and recording. Never mind on that video part. Like I mentioned earlier, they're also bringing news apps, stock apps, voice memos on the Mac, and you can actually
the HomeKit app.
That too, and that also allows you to do Siri commands in the Home app from your Mac, which I think is nice. And that's kind of their version of something that they're building up on later, which was a little sneak peek showing that, well, actually, we're going to get to that in a little bit. But keep that in mind. They're now, the next section that they were doing was requiring permission for things like accessing your camera, mic, mail database, message history, Safari data, time machine backups, iTunes device backups, location and routines, and system cookies, while previously it only worked for location, contacts, photos, calendar, and reminders.
That's so true. Why never noticed that?
Mm-hmm. So apps had access to that kind of stuff and never really asked you for permission.
This is why I have my camera taped off.
Then they also have stuff like shutting down buttons, comment boxes, and stuff like that when in Safari, and then it requires you approving something like, say, Facebook if for a like button, to use cookies and website data while browsing a particular website. And then they went a little step. Well, that they did that part for privacy, because the whole "don't track me" thing. Then they went a step further. Hello there, Marcel Trozowski. If I said the last name wrong, I deeply apologize. They went another step further with fingerprinting. Now, fingerprinting essentially is something that uses system information that websites can obtain from your computer to... Oh, okay. This is in Dutch. I am not sure what that says. I'm gonna guess that he's from Dutchland, and that's translate.google.com. I'm from Germany. Welcome. We're currently in the Bahamas, so we've got quite a distance between us. Right, so what this does is it uses all that information to uniquely identify that this is this particular computer. And Apple doesn't want that. So what they're doing is, and by the way, which is kind of funny because Adobe is one of the companies that kind of highlighted some stuff with the 3D stuff. Adobe actually has a system that does fingerprinting for people that are building websites to give like customizing the websites based on that user's experience. So for example, if you click on female clothing and you've gone to a website that does like surfing and stuff like that, it's going to allow you to say, okay, well, this person is probably a female based on what they've searched, probably likes surfing, and so it can allow you to have like a customized surf display page when they go onto your website when they come back to your website. Or if you partner up with third-party websites, it can move on that information and can create unique experiences for the viewer. But with this, they're effectively canceling that out because they're showing only simplified system configurations, built-in only fonts, and legacy plugins no longer work. These are things plus the whole other tracking systems like cookies are what allow them to pretty much figure out that this computer is this particular computer. So now all Macs are going to look like other Macs and all iPhones are going to look like other iPhones. There's going to be really no unique experience anymore. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. How do you feel about that, Vicky? Like, does that affect you at all as an Apple user, or do you just not really care?
It doesn't really affect me. It doesn't really affect me. It may affect other persons because I know when they said it, persons were cheering and they seemed excited for it, but it doesn't really affect me.
Fair enough.
Yes.
And then there were some other new things like the new Mac Store update, which brings it in line more with iOS looking.
Yes, it's about time.
I
don't really use it that much, but it's about time.
I think the design is quite nice. it is about time because, you know, well, I think they saw that people liked the update that they did to iOS, and so they said, you know what, let's do it with Mac as well. And I'm sure people will like it there as well because it brings a lot of new unique features. And not only
it may put some track on. We'll have some traffic for the Mac App Store. I don't think my people uses the Mac App Store.
I would not be surprised, especially since you can download apps from other places.
Everywhere, yeah.
They're also building it to be more like the iOS App Store with ratings and reviews and an API for that. And they're saying that Office 365, Lightroom CC from Adobe, Transmit, and BB Edit are all coming later this year as well to the Mac App Store. Then they kind of touched on a topic that we've talked about before with the whole, how should I put it? What's a computer? And that ad brought up brought up the whole thing of, are they merging iOS and macOS? And their answer was this, apparently.
No.
No.
Of course not.
And then they make sure to drop it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I had that photo saved. I can use
And we
it
love
as a meme.
macOS because it's explicitly created to the unique characteristics of Mac hardware, like the ergonomics of the
So
keyboard,
essentially,
the trackpad, the flexibility in displays and storage, and because of the power
I'll let him
exposes,
explain
makes
it.
the Mac able to accomplish almost anything. So we think that this question is actually coming from something else. You know, Mac users have access to a rich set of great native applications, apps that take full advantage of the power of Mac technologies. But Mac users also use apps based on other technologies.
And then that kind of leads into something else. Now, I don't know how they kind of grew in from the whole, like, we think people are wanting, like, thinking we're going to merge iOS and macOS into this. It's because you guys have kind of led us there into believing that we're considering this with how you're doing these updates. You're making macOS look like iOS. You're making everything continuity. This, that, and the next. You're making everything kind of fit together. So the next step would be, in a lot of people's minds,
To merge them.
And this isn't the first time people are thinking this. Like, they thought the same thing of Google Chrome books and Android. Quite literally. And so now they're just taking that same ideology and thought process and putting it to to Macs and iPhones. It's something that people want. And Samsung's kind of doing that with their whole DeX program. There are tablets that do something very similar. Windows technically is doing something in a sense similar with their tablet systems. Even though they killed off the Windows Phone, so that doesn't really have the same element anymore. But Apple's going to essentially say, well, it's because people want us to have iOS apps on Macs. And so that's what they're going to start working on, which is why they have their own versions of those 4 apps: Home, Stocks, News, and Voice Memos, coming onto macOS. Now, they were saying that it was just a sneak peek because it's actually part of Project Marzipan, which will likely be for next year's WWDC, with the next version of iOS, which is iOS 13, and the next version of macOS.
Yes. Yep. We're up really high. iOS 13 next year.
Yeah.
Man, I was excited for iOS 2.
That's ages ago. One saying, I have noticed Apple says our iOS is free, our updates are free, does not give a sense in that their intention is to make it paid later, maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I think what they're trying to do is throw shade towards Windows, mainly, because Android's updates, like I mentioned earlier, were always free. even though they started off with saying like our updates are free, and then they went straight into iPhones. Windows phones never had a charge for upgrading. Androids have never had a charge for upgrading. BlackBerry's never had a charge for upgrading unless you were getting new hardware. So I don't know where they're coming from with that. But when it comes to Macs, definitely they have something to say about Windows, because with every version of Windows, you technically had to pay, unless you were coming from Windows 7 to 10, where they did allow you to get Windows 10 for free for a certain period of time. I think it was like 2 years they allowed it for.
I actually think that, if I remember correctly, I think back in the day, Apple used to charge for macOS, so back when it was named OS 10. If I remember correctly, they did, right? Because I remember you used to have to purchase the CD, and you used to back when they had like a super drive.
I think you're right.
I so happened to get lucky that year when I got my first Mac, and this update after that was free.
Yeah, that was good timing.
That was OS 10, maybe Lion, I think.
I think a lot of people's...
Actually, no, I think I started with MacBooks. Whichever one it was back in 2009 is the one that I started with. Jeez, 2009?
Yeah, 9 years ago.
Jeez. 9 years, and I'm actually, no, it's been more years than I'm taking my money. But it was concrete after I got that MacBook.
Mr. Juan, I don't know if they're gonna actually call it the iPhone 9, but it's supposedly coming later on this year.
Yeah, it may be iPhone.
Maybe iPhone. They're saying that it's gonna be an iPhone 10 Plus. That's one of the rumored versions that's coming out.
Yeah,
and then the iPhone 10 Lite.
iPhone 10 Lite? Yeah.
So, yeah, not sure exactly what's coming out this year at this point. We'll have to wait a little bit longer.
Wait until like around, I'm going to say the week of, because there's a developer on Twitter that basically scrubbed the code the same week when the keynote was happening last week, and he was able to like get the naming scheme for everything. Not last week, last year. So he was able to get the naming scheme for everything last year.
I think there's a one of the websites found that there was a phone running iOS 12. iOS 12 that didn't fit the screen like size. It was the same screen resolution, but it didn't fit the inches of the other phones of that same like resolution. So they were saying that might be the actual like size of the phone. So people are being creative with trying to find out information about the new phones that are coming out.
Yep.
No, I think they're gonna stay with the Plus kind of mentions, not saying XL like Google is.
Yeah, I think they're gonna stick with Plus as well. They already started, so they're going to continue the naming scheme line up.
Yeah. And then there were other features that they didn't really talk on, which is bringing FaceTime with audio to macOS as well. Group FaceTime, app recents in docks. Well, in the dock. International keyboard improvements, secure code autofill in Macs. So it's going to be pretty much the same way. I'm going to guess it's going to use continuity. So if you get the text message, it will automatically fill it in on the Mac. Would be interesting. I'm surprised they didn't mention that one. In the mail, an emoji picker. Also suggested folders for your mail. Font collections, automatic strong passwords, faster CSS selectors. So that's for web design and like rendering websites. Improved hard drive performance. Another one that they did kind of talk on was favicons in Safari's tabs. So pretty much if a website has a specialized icon for that website, typically their logo, they can create a favicon, which is a little design that will show up and distinctly tell you which website is which. You can just look up at the icons instead of having to read what each tab is inside Safari, which is something that Chrome has had for years. Firefox has had for years. I think even Internet Explorer and Edge have had that.
Oh man, tell me about Firefox. That was booming back in the day.
Back in the day.
Now.
Well, that's because Chrome was faster, but now both of them are kind of sluggish and, well, they're not as fast as they used to be. But they're still working on stuff across the board with all the different ones. But there's a new login window, which they didn't really go into it, but it's pretty much a new lock screen design with bigger images and font text. There's a new save panel, a new open panel. There's the W3C web driver, which WC3 is pretty much the web consortium that pretty much helps keep the standards for the web and web design, along with improved CSS color support. So if you want to, that's again web design. Apple file system for Fusion drives and hard drives. Faster wake up from sleeping, so that should help. Password reuse auditing in Safari, so if you use the same password in Safari, it'll give you a warning for across different websites. Automated shortcuts in the touch bar, and OpenType SVG font support, which is a new kind of font. Then there were other things that they didn't mention, which is custom accent colors via system preferences. So you can actually go inside the general menu, and you can, instead of being dark mode, you can select change your UI to be red, blue, orange, yellow, green, purple, pink, or gray.
You're giving us a little bit of customization. I'm not used to this.
Exactly, right? I thought that was a neat little I think the whole dark mode and then the colors kind of seem like they're borrowing that idea from Windows. But even then, the fact that they're going like complete skinning tops what Windows does. So again, kudos to them on that. Then they moved the software update section back to system preferences. I forget where they had it before, but now it's back in system preferences. They have a new DVD player app. One that's, because the previous one was 32-bit. This one's 64-bit.
Use that? Oh, did they update the icon? Because the icon's rather old.
Yeah, they updated the icon as well.
Good.
And
yeah,
they added touch bar support controls onto it as well. And the last thing that I was able to find for macOS was that they removed integrations with third-party internet accounts like Twitter and Facebook, like what they did with iOS 11. So that's more on the privacy element. You know, the only way they can get access is by using the app, and the permissions there, it's not system level anymore. So they have done a lot. Like we started almost on time, and it's been almost 2 hours of us talking. We've almost gone the length of the keynote. Like going in depth on this when they weren't even going as in depth. I think it's because we started picking at things that they didn't talk about. That's probably has us gone this long.
Yeah,
Plus,
probably why they didn't speak about them.
Probably. Chomp Chomp! How you doing, man? Yeah, I haven't seen you. Let's see. We skipped out the past 2 weeks due to personal issues. You didn't make the episode before that, but you were on our first episode on Mixer. So that's about 4 weeks since we've seen you, and you've been on here. Well, at least with us. It's great seeing you again, man. But, and then we also did get carried away during this episode with talking about other stuff, too. So I can kind of see where we got to the almost 2 hour mark with this episode. Yeah, we did a good job not scheduling anything else than the WWDC for this episode. Wow. But was there anything that overall caught your attention, like the top 3 features for you?
Well, performance is one, because last year's OS was trash. I feel like my performance dropped so much last year. I like the ruler app.
Measure
I
app.
like Series. Oh yeah, sorry, Measure. I like the Measure app. Oh, and then they also changed the default. Oh man, the default home screen for iOS. So like when for iOS 12, if you go and if you go to set your home screen to default, it's going to rearrange some of the icons. So they now move FaceTime to the front. FaceTime is now the top, well, the first icon that you'd see in the top left. They removed. They changed the extra. You know, they had like an extra folder where they keep. Oh, let me see what's in it. The extra folder where they keep, like, you know, the compass, tips, voice memos, contacts, find friend, and all that extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They now put like most of the utility stuff inside that folder, and they took most of the stuff that was in that folder out. So calculator is now in that folder. What else is in that folder? I feel they had the Measure app in that folder as well. But not to get sidetracked, let's see, what else did I like? I like the Siri shortcuts. It's an improvement to Siri, which she was desperately needing. It's probably not the extensive improvement which people wanted, but it's an improvement. So kudos for them for doing that. What else do I really use that I like? I like the walkie-talkie for the watchOS because I don't really do any activity, so everything else is just like scratch. And I usually listen to podcasts on my phone because we don't have eSIMs over here, so cellular doesn't make a difference. Well, the 4K stuff with Apple TV doesn't make a difference for me because I don't have a 4K Apple TV and I don't have a 4K TV. So, and most of the things that they implemented, like the live spot and so on, is incompatible with our region, so none of those made a difference. The only thing I really benefit from was them being able to tell us the location of their screensavers, various screensavers that they had. I'd say a few things in macOS because I feel like macOS wasn't getting the love that it needed, especially not last year. It wasn't like they updated macOS last year, but it wasn't. It was just like a little skim. It wasn't nothing deep into depth like what they did this year. So I would say I probably like most of the things that they added to macOS.
Okay. Just catching up on some comments. Juan said, do you think Samsung can make such conference to talk about a new upgrade? I cannot imagine that. They actually do make conferences, and they actually have a lot of people that go to them. And they show off stuff. Do check it out. They call it the Unpack. Samsung Unpacks. So you may want to check that out. They have it on their YouTube page. And Mr. Chumps, I'm sorry about the mixer. I don't know what's going on with that and why it's freezing up. But I'm glad you came over and watched this on YouTube. How are you liking the Galaxy S9 Plus? As for me, though, the features that I liked, I would have to say AR. Like, that was a big thing for me, and like the way they presented it, they did a top-notch job. I do like the Siri shortcuts.
I see what you did there.
I wasn't even intending for a pun, but I that does work inside there. Sorry, bad pun. I do like that they are now doing the battery level and usage time for the well-being. Not so much a big watchOS person, especially since I don't have an Apple Watch.
Best smartwatch ever. It's number one watch in the world.
Anyway.
Let's not forget those stats that they gave last year.
Anyway, what was White Pancake saying earlier? You can put away the lotion. We have. I like some of the stuff from macOS. For me, honestly, it's the dark mode, and then the
Are you
event.
one of those Twitter dark mode people?
I am one of those Twitter dark mode
That's
people.
why.
I'm a dark mode person. Yes, if it has dark mode as an option, I will go dark mode. I think continuity camera is a really great option as well, like for macOS. And I'm not sure how I feel about the whole fingerprinting and like the tracking thing, because, well, I do like marketing in a sense, so it's good to customize stuff to people and it makes them feel welcome and stuff like that. But if you take that away, they just get the generic experience. So it's kind of a catch-22. And even though it's not in this update really and truly, I like the fact that they're going to be allowing for iOS apps to go onto macOS. Like, those are my takeaways from this. Like, those are the things I really like. Let's see. Chomp Chomp is saying, aside from the problems I have with Mixer, it's been great. Hated the default key. Oh, so he's talking about the S9 Plus. It's been great. Hated the default keyboard. I hate it as well. So I switched to Gboard. Good job. I've gotten acclimated to the curved edges. That takes time. And speaker's nice and loud. Yeah, the curved screen, like the curved edges, it does take time because like you have to like readjust how you hold the screen in a sense. Like, even though my screen is curved in a sense, it doesn't have the same level of curve. Like, for example, the the S9, technically the bezel ends like right here. So it's got all of this space up in here.
Be careful not to catch, not to tap the.
Exactly. And then on this,
I have actually had an issue when I've used persons like Samsung devices with the curved edge. I haven't had an issue where I end up hitting stuff on the side.
And then on the, if I go hold it like this, it's the right hand side. If I do it like that, this side. Anyway, this side. If I like say this is the 9 Plus or the S9. Essentially it uses that extra space, so if I slide from the right, I get options to like open up applications, 2 applications at the same time, go through contacts. It gives me notifications, like it can light up the sides to say like someone's calling you, this particular person. A lot of little neat things that are kind of gimmicky but at the same time kind of nice. So yeah, I am kind of interested to see what they do with the Note 9 this year though.
Me too.
But overall, I'm glad you have been enjoying your S9 Plus. It's a really nice phone. It's up top there between the iPhone 10, the Samsung S9 series, of course, and I would say the Google Pixel 2 XL. Like, those, I would say, are among the top phones right here and now.
I feel like the Google Pixel 2 isn't getting any love.
It's been a while. Like, I think when Android P actually comes out, it'll have some love, but around that same time, then the Pixel 3 is going to be coming out as well. So,
it's like with the iPhone 8 series, it wasn't getting any love until they released the product red version, and all of a sudden it was like, ooh, let me love you.
Pretty much. He's saying that I love the Smart Select for screens. That is a really neat feature. It gets enhanced in the Note series, especially like with the recent updates that went to the Note 8. That is really, really nice. But S9 definitely has some neat features. Everything from the gaming mode to Smart Select to a lot of the customized versions of stuff that Samsung has added on top of Android. It's a really neat phone. If I didn't not like TouchWiz, which is the user interface that they use, I probably would have gotten that as my next phone. I'll be quite honest. But we have been talking for 2 hours. well over our normal limit. This is kind of like, well, actually, some of our conferences, like conference-based talks, have been about this length before. So yeah, thank you everyone that decided to jump into the call, well, jump into chat and be a part of the episode. Definitely thank you to Bill Cosby Did Nothing, who like donated a bunch of little bits to us and shares. Bluetooth has been in iOS 1. What are you talking about? But it's always been iOS based. Like iOS to iOS, iPhone to iPhone, that kind of thing. Not like iPhone to Android. That's still a little wonky.
What do you mean, Bluetooth sharing?
Yeah. Well, oh, I mean that could be that too.
Nah, we stick with AirDrop.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for everyone that came into the chat. Thank you, Vicky, for coming in on this episode as well as my co-host.
You're welcome.
And don't forget, we'll be back next week, Thursday, at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer. And if you go on Twitter, you can probably watch us on Periscope as well. But until next time, and we may have a special episode coming up with the Bahamas conference that's coming up with blockchain technology. We have a request from the government actually to have that episode. So keep an eye out for that special episode. It probably will not be live streamed. I will see if I can get them to do it live stream, but it probably will not. So keep an eye out on YouTube for that to happen, especially since that's happening June 20th to the 22nd in Grand Bahama. So until next time, take care.
Peace.